Everybody in the world was waiting for it. Like, what was it, a year wait?
Yep.
Something like that. And it finally came. Everybody in the world, literally, possibly everybody in the world, even blind people saw it.
Twice.
Like 5,000 times. It cheated its way to the top of the highest grossing list of all time. I say cheated because, come on, the re-release. But then again, Avatar did the same thing.
Yeah.
So a couple of cheating bastards.
It's also Avatar's now owned by Disney also, so they literally just beat themselves.
In other words, Disney robbed everybody's pocket, except for ours, because we didn't go see this in the theater at all. Like fools, we decided to wait at home. Or were we fools? I don't think we were, because
Crowds.
I don't think this ever died down in terms of people going to see it.
Yeah.
Which is an issue at times, especially where we live. Stinky!
Literally, sometimes.
Spoiler, where we live sucks. Anyway, so yeah, man, everybody went to see it except for us. Now, I don't know about you, but I did an expert job of not spoiling like 95% of this movie. Some shit, I mean, eked through.
Yeah.
One thing or two here eked through, and it's mostly through shit like a toy revealed something about the fucking thing, or some passing comment revealed something. But for the most part,
Me literally ruining someone's death.
yeah, you were responsible for something. For the most part, though, I kept myself pretty clean of any, which I gotta say is achievement all on its own.
Yeah.
That nary a fucking thing dropped into mine ear.
I think I went like 85%, which is also kind of impressive.
Yeah, any percentage really is
Yeah.
impressive of this movie not being ruined. Of course, we're talking about Avengers Endgame, the conclusion, as it were, to this long gestating, overarching plot that carried the Marvel Universe from inception to end game, that is. So there it was, man. Made tons of money, and everybody, I wouldn't say everybody liked it. There was like kind of like a divisiveness of sorts. I think maybe a lot of people were like, I can't say I didn't like it because then I would have wasted like 10 years of my life. So maybe there's a percentage of people that think that way. I know a lot of people that saw it around me were kind of lukewarm on it. Without spoiling anything, without them spoiling anything for me. I mean, we're going to spoil the shit out of this, but who are we really spoiling it for? Everybody already seen it except for us.
Marcus, if you haven't seen it yet, watch it first, because I know he wanted to see
it. Yeah. Watch it first and come back. But, so without them trying to spoil anything for me, I was like, well, what exactly did you find disappointing, if anything at all? And there was a consensus, but we'll touch on that if it becomes relevant or not. The point is, what do we think about it? Because we all know you were hinging on our opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Totally waiting for this moment. Excuse me. Especially that moment right there. The question is, did you think this was an adequate conclusion? Were you disappointed? Where were you? Where are you at, man? Where are you up on the map with this? Don't give me your standard. Like that.
I wasn't disappointed.
I'm saying, like, where were you overall? Like
at the end of the movie?
Yeah, like where you at, man? Did you hate this? Did you not hate this?
I'm pretty satisfied.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think this is possibly the most satisfying conclusion you could get to this. It's really, I think it was pretty gutsy, honestly, for them to take a more character-driven approach.
Yeah.
More methodical and thought-out approach to the affairs and going balls out again. And because, look, let's face it, Infinity War was the balls out section of this. Infinity War was Kill Bill Volume 1 to this one's Kill Bill Volume 2. You know, it was big, it was a spectacle to behold, and there was high stakes at every turn of the corner. And I know one of the big lingering questions for a lot of people, including us, for Part 1 was, what happened to all these other characters that are kind of like human? Well, this is how they used them in this other kind of much more relevant way, which I suspect, because this is much more methodically paced, and there's a higher emphasis on character story arcs and how ultimately they affect the outcome of everything, and really closing up of all these lingering storylines that had been, you know, opened up throughout the course of this entire freaking experiment, if you will. Focusing on that for the bulk of the movie. That may have been what maybe some people didn't gel with.
Yeah.
Because this is not a duke 'em out,
Yeah,
visual spectacle type of movie.
I was like, towards the end, I was thinking like, if DC had made this, people would just be
We'll be
crying.
shitting on it.
It's
Yeah.
boring and nothing happens. Yeah.
So yeah, in essence, they made something that was a little bit more character driven, and that I think, like I said, I think that's where these kind of lukewarm responses come from. To some, I'm sure there's some people that are like, oh, it's a fucking piece of shit ending. I'm sure there's some of those out there. On the other hand, I thought this was the adequate way to end it, man. It all just made so much sense. You could see how much character work they put into these people as the story went along, except for the Hulk. That guy's just a mess, but at least he wasn't annoying in this one. But you could see legitimately how much thought, despite, there's, like in everything, there's a few hitches here and there for everything, but you could really see how much forethought they put into certain characters and how it all tied in. Everybody here, the story basically zips you 5 years into the future, where everybody on Earth literally is trying to cope with the aftermath of the snap, and that's where our characters are at. All their motivations differ slightly because of their particular roles or lack thereof in that ultimate scenario. So all their motivations line up, though, in one regard: they want to reverse it. So everybody's in the same on the same mission, so to speak, but with different mindsets. And that's interesting, man. If you could conjure up a cast this big and give them all interesting storylines that keep you, engaged about where they're at as characters, well, shit. I mean, that's hard to do. That's hard to juggle. And this movie did that, so I applaud that. I especially applaud that it did it for characters that literally were like non-existent for a few fucking movies.
That's I think that's what I like the most, is that it kind of made up for these characters kind of being pushed to the back in Infinity War, with the exception of Iron Man, basically.
Right. And and I think the ultimate example of that would be somebody like Hawkeye, which everybody was like, where the fuck is this guy? Like, forever now.
Yeah.
And, he's one of those kind of linchpin characters that you didn't expect it to be that way. His motivation is literally revenge, anger. On the opposite end of that spectrum, we have somebody like Iron Man, who has everything to lose in a world where everybody's already lost something. And it was so apropos. I gotta say, the whole debate of which big name was gonna die was a big, point of discussion for everybody, especially for comic geeks and nerds like us. And it was so apropos that Iron Man should be the one to die. After all, he was the one that kind of started this whole MCU thing. So for him to be the one that literally had everything to lose in a world where everybody had lost something, to sacrifice himself, that was the ultimate hero way to go. That was awesome, man. That was the best fucking thing. And then on top of that, to give us an extra little stinger there with Captain America, that was satisfying as fuck.
Yeah.
I was all for Cap taking the hit, and I like how the movie even tricks you that way, with a variety of people. But I think everybody knew it was going to come down to either Cap or Iron Man. But to give Cap happiness, that was super cool, man. That was just a great way to give two heroes a send-off, and to make it feel utterly satisfying. Not like you were robbed or cheaped out of something. That was the way to do it. I absolutely love that. Possibly my favorite thing in the movie.
I just want to say that I called it. This was a debate between you, me, and Guardian of who was going to stay dead. You went all out. You're like, they're just going to kill everyone. Especially Drax. You're like, if he comes back, I'm going to be pissed. And I was like, all right. And I was like, it's going to be Iron Man, Captain America, and either Hawkeye or Black Widow. And I was right.
Yeah. Basically,
basically Captain America's dead.
Now...
So, he's freaking looking like Clint Eastwood.
Fucking 1,000 in it, so dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I just like the way everything was done. It was very. It all had meaning. All the loss had meaning, which is the way to go. It didn't even matter who ended up dying, as long as it wasn't cheap, and none of the deaths were cheap. Of course, I meant where my favorite characters died, but that's okay. again, it wasn't cheap, man. I know people get up in arms about their favorite characters dying. I don't give a shit. That's part of fucking life / shitty stories that we like. In fact, if you could pull off a character death that has meaning, that has substance, that causes repercussions, then all the better, in my opinion. And so, yeah, Black Widow died. Again, one of my favorite characters. But, wow, they found a way to make that fucking mean something. Especially in the position in life she was in, you know. Kind of despondent, kind of aimless. Self-sacrifice for somebody, her friend of all things. Who, you know, I mean, that's awesome, dude. You know? Sacrifice yourself for the sake of others. True hero ways to go out. Love it, man. Love it. Especially in the wake of a world where everybody was behind Thanos. Thanos was right. Hashtag Thanos was right.
Yeah.
You know, Thanos is a great character because we can see kind of the reason behind that in a, you know, in a misanthropic light. We can see the reason behind it. And we're all kind of that way, especially given that people can suck ass. Mm-hmm. But in the end, the hero reasoning means we continue with warts and all. And victory comes every now and then, but those moments of victory are worth it. And that's exactly what this movie gives us. And it takes away that feeling of Thanos being substantive in his villainous plight. You know, it took that feeling away, which was great, considering that Infinity War kind of made everybody go, hell yeah, Thanos. This one was like, what does it matter? Are you really going to side with him now?
Yeah.
You know, so that was awesome. That they achieved that on top of everything else was super cool. Got to give that a big old thumb up of approval. Up the A, precisely. Give it to me, man. Anything. Negative, positive?
I know this movie's like 8,000 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
Actually didn't feel very long at all.
Yeah.
It went pretty quickly.
Which is good.
Which is impressive given how... I don't want to say slow because it's not slow.
It's not action oriented. Yeah, that's what you mean.
Yeah. Especially, you know, given the way they paced the movie or the way it's set up, it is kind of impressive. It doesn't feel sluggish. Like you're not like, ooh, hurry up, get to the. There's only one really big fight, and it's at the end.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like that it was more restrained, and you know, it gave you a reason to care about the characters, and like I said, it made up for the fact that these characters were kind of shafted in the first movie, and just shifting that focus from, you know, Thanos centric to what happened because of him was good and cool.
There was like a pseudo like post-apocalyptic feel. Yeah, it reminded me a lot of like the feeling in Children of Men, where people were just hopeless because of what had happened. It's not necessarily that, you know, we plummeted to the depths of fucking Mad Max, or, you know, roving for gasoline or anything. It was more like hopelessness.
Guzzling.
Yeah, guzzling. It was more about hopelessness. There was a bleak feeling to the beginning portion of this movie, and it really colored the characters incredibly well, and it just showed exactly why they should fight in the end, you know? Which, I mean, if you colored this too bleak, then you wouldn't even want them to fight. And thankfully, they kind of like shafted off that too bleak response to one character, and this was a controversial one. Apparently, according to some headlines, people disliked Thor in his kind of Lebowski state. I don't know if you read on this or not. I just the headlines were everywhere that there was like this contention about him, I guess. But I thought that was a very useful way to kind of, you know, just cast all that downtrodden feeling onto one character and personify it, rather than make the movie so bogged down with, you know, just sadness and bleakness that didn't. I mean, we knew was there, but didn't need to be throughout the movie, because that would be a completely different movie.
I actually think that Hulk kind of served a purpose in that too, because he kind of served the you know, as the opposite to most characters, where he was kind of in a good place after all that happening.
That's true.
So that's cool.
Yeah. Again, the character work here is pretty fucking astonishing, and that's ultimately its strongest point, I believe. That's not to say that when we do get action, like you said, it's more like spotty throughout. It's more like fan service stuff.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
really is.
We have the time travel plot, which we'll get to right now, which allows us to revisit certain things and places and times. And again, it's more fan servicey stuff. Cap versus Cap. I mean,
Yeah.
duh. That's
Or
gonna,
even like a nod to the elevator fight in Winter Soldier.
yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of stuff like that that will please longtime fans or even fans that are just strictly about the MCU. There's just something inherently pleasing about seeing situations like that. That's all good because for those people that maybe are not too keen on just 100% character work, that keeps them going. But it all, I think, nicely builds up to this final confrontation, which is fucking massive, I guess, for lack of better words. It's a pretty badass final confrontation. I can't decide whether this one or Infinity Wars is better.
I think this one is better.
I'd be more inclined to say this one's better because there's a lot more heft behind this one.
Yeah, it also unlike Infinity War, this one did give me a chill in the old spine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'll give it to that. Also, the effects are way better in this.
Oh yeah, no floating heads in this one.
No.
Thankfully, man,
They're
fucking
actually
floating head syndrome was a problem.
very good in this.
Even the Hulk was a good effect.
Yeah,
in
the
this.
Hulk was a pretty good effect.
Now let's talk about the Hulk. We've had spotty history with the
Yeah.
Hulk. Look, he's gotten progressively worse in the MCU. And a lot of people, again, headlines and what you told me,
Yeah.
a lot of people were apparently hating on the Hulk in this one. I can't even hate. Considering that, the last time around we saw him
Yeah.
was not great. And then the previous time to that was fucking Thor Ragnarok
His
where he was
freaking
abysmal.
asshole was literally showing.
Yeah, he's a character that they don't know what to do with. And here, the change makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Here it makes sense. Okay, this is where he's at, and this is because of this. We could see potential growth from this position forward. Am I 100% sold on him? No. Was I annoyed? Thankfully not.
I think the fact that he does serve a purpose for just showing that there is like, he's in a better place because of what happened or whatever and all that shit. He served a good purpose, and he ultimately was not bad. But at times, especially early on, I was like, oh man. Because there's a couple parts where like there's some really jokey shit with him. And in the first part, it doesn't land.
Well, let's talk about that real quick. There is inherently, because this is fucking MCU, there's a lot of humor injected into it. This was a movie where it was dangerous to inject humor into it given where we were at. And yes, early on they come with the Hulk mostly, a little Thor.
Yeah.
And for the most part, tell me if you agree or disagree with this. I agree with you that they feel like they fell flat, but I'm going to emphasize the word feel. They feel like they fell flat because of the context of the time, particularly in the movie.
Yeah.
I think we're not distant enough from the beginning of the movie for them to land. Not that they were great or anything, the jokes, but, they could have been at least a little like, or whatever, an internal chuckle or whatever. But I do think they come a little bit too early. So they do
especially
not
because
land or feel that way.
The opening is so kind of downery.
Yeah.
With the Hawkeye stuff and all that. And the stuff in the past. So yeah, just to have that suddenly Hulk is like, whoa, I'm messing things. Oh, the baby was kind of freaking lame.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the only thing that I found cringy.
The Ant-Man time sequence.
Yeah, that was the only thing that I think went over to being like, ah.
Okay, yeah, the Ant-Man. At first, they do these trials with Ant-Man, send him back, see if it works, try to figure out the time travel thing. Yes, and it kind of turns into a joke. And yeah, it's way too early in the movie to joke like that.
Literally, like right after some heavy shit.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the way, like you said, the way it's delivered is like, oh, look at that fucking Hulk.
Whoa.
His madcap hijinks.
Yeah.
Whoa,
That's the only.
No.
I think that's the only one that made me go, Bochila!
Look, that was a cringe moment for me, and I got another cringe moment for me, and you're gonna probably be like, what? Because I'm not on that bandwagon where I label everything agenda driven and like SJW driven. I'm just not. I calls them like I sees them. I have to see it first to call it, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Captain Marvel, I wasn't gonna be like, oh, it's a gender. I was gonna see it first, then judge it on that, and that was that, etc. Down the line.
Yeah.
There is one moment in this movie where, for the first time in the Marvel universe, I felt, man, that was an agenda fucking piece right there.
Which part?
It was during the final confrontation.
Okay, yeah, I know exactly.
You know, Captain Marvel, and the rest of the ladies of the MCU basically convene.
That made no sense.
Yeah, together somehow in this massive battlefield, they find each other to provide an escort mission. Which, by the way, Captain Marvel doesn't even need an escort.
No.
She's fucking Captain Marvel. We've established that she's badass. Power set like the sorts of Superman. Oh, why she need an escort? So all these ladies get together and they're like, oh, well, she's got backup.
I agree.
That was legitimately
it made no
like,
sense.
It made no sense, and it was like, look at how cool
especially
the ladies are.
because how big the freaking battle was. Like,
yeah.
How the hell are they all gonna find themselves like this?
Exactly. It made absolutely no sense. And granted, like this type of stuff happens in movies all the time where the
I mean, literally Spider-Man is swinging on nothing at one point.
Yeah.
You're like, how's he swinging?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and of course, you know, we have the classic in every war movie ever. The lead bad guy finds the lead good guy, and they clash in the midst of the battlefield. It happens all the time. It's just, for the first time, this literally felt like we have to put this in here because ladies rock. And don't get me wrong, ladies rock. I'm not against the whole... You know, I've talked about this before in this channel and the other one. You can see by my wall here that clearly I prefer female leads and stuff like that in comic books. Not a problem. I mean, you know, but again, this was the first time literally that I felt like, whoa, that was a little fucking on the nose there, pal. You know what I'm saying?
Especially because they're helping out a dude and shit.
Yeah.
And like, alright, dude.
Now, there was a big fucking point of contention before this movie came out about the role of Captain Marvel in the movie. You know, was she going to be used as a Deus Ex Machina type of character, that, you know, the solve it all, the linchpin to everything? And I think they played it very delicately. Now, there's rumors that they shot an alternative, or there was at least a written alternative, just in case the reception to Captain Marvel wasn't there, etc. I don't know about all that. I don't know. I wasn't behind the scenes. I can't tell you. It's not been verified. But I can tell you that they played it the right way here. It would have been too early for her to be the fix-all. You know, it's literally a movie away, basically. Yeah. But they used her, in my opinion, I don't know about you, in my opinion, they used her just the right way. Now, I do believe there was a legitimate reason why she wasn't there all the time, i.e. the idea that the snap affected the entire universe. Obvious. She's attending to other places. I do believe that doing that, while it assuaged a lot of the potential backlash of people, it also brought forth a lot of questions like, why wouldn't she be here at the most pivotal of moments?
That's one of the things I did keep hearing from people who like the movie, is that why is she not there?
Yeah.
Given that like you said, it's like one of the most important moments.
Yeah. So while granted, she's attending to all this other stuff. Yeah, but she's also like this super... So really, in the end, I got to say this. And I think you'll agree with me on this. There was no winning with the way they were going to handle her.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it assuaged a lot of the potential backlash by keeping her just for important moments and giving her a reason to not be there. But at the same time, logically, you're like, come on, man. This is like your secret weapon, literally, and you're not using her, and she's willingly getting out of the way. So I get why they did that, but at the same time, you know, if you really think about it, whatever. But I'm not upset with it. You know, I'm fine. It's a hairy fucking rope to walk, because you wouldn't want her being there and then taking all the fucking spotlight from these characters that have been leading up to this point. It was about these 4 core characters that you really wanted to see stuff wrapped up for. So maybe keeping her out was the wisest way to make sure that focus stayed on these characters. Either way, I'm not fucked up about it. I'm just like, kind of like, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that they didn't just go the way of she comes in and reverses everything. And that's another thing I was a little worried about them just undoing everything. Mm-hmm. And they didn't do that, which is good.
Yeah.
because that would have really cheapened things.
Yes.
There's like a running gag at this point where no one ever truly dies in the Marvel Universe. And that would have been like the ultimate thing, just undo literally everyone's death.
And generally speaking, in comic books, that's kind of like a thing. Deaths never really mean anything. They're temporary, they have effects, but ultimately the character comes back. So with movies, obviously you can't do that with actors that are going to be like, yo, I'm going to leave. So this is good that they decided to actually pull that Band-Aid. Not pulling that Band-Aid would have been kind of, like you said, cheap. A fucking cop-out, really. Like, all right, man, all right, well, that meant nothing, didn't it? But they didn't. And it seems to be, at least for the most part, permanent, which is the way to go.
I think keeping the 5-year gap is also a good idea, because that's kind of interesting. And that, some people would have moved forward and others not. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. You know what else was a kind of a risky move? It's redefining and they even kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink to it, referred to in the movie several times. Changing the kind of accepted rules of time travel in movies with something that really, when it was mentioned, I was like, why didn't anybody else think of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess we're just so used to the way time travel works in movies that when that was presented to me, I was like, yeah, why the fuck? Why haven't we touched on this before? So
to be fair, I've brought it up many times, but time travel makes no sense in films.
Well,
it has been debates.
It makes sense in terms of film because time travel, in essence, it's a complex idea. So the movie had a big risk of being over convoluted, and I think it avoided that spectacularly with one fucking explanation. Literally, all it took was one explanation from the Hulk about the idea, everybody, and again, they kind of made it a joke, a self-aware joke about how movie rules work. And basically the idea is you can't go and change the past to change the future. The past is the past. It's going to stay the past. That's it. The past is the past. What you can do, according to the rules of the Marvel Universe, is you can create divergent timelines, they provided a fix for that by returning the stones at the end. So it was so neat and tidy and to the point that I was like, that... You know what? That's amazing that they could get a potentially over-convoluted concept to an audience across with one fucking line, and then later, a little other extra line to just tidy up whatever doubts you might have or concepts you might have or ideas you might have about it. That's it. Now, inevitably with timelines, people are going to be arguing up and down about it, whatever, to the end of time, I assume. But you know what, man? You can do that with any movie about time travel. And I think this one cleanly puts it out there. If you're going to rip your hair out fucking picking through everything, then good on you. But that's not the type of movie to do it with. I think it does that just cleanly, man. There it is. Boom. And the little bow on a fucking plate. There you go. You either get it or you don't. And it's pretty hard not to get it. Appreciate that. Like it. Dig it. Give me some more of that. Actually, don't. Don't do time travel again, but it was good here. But anyway, what you got, man?
You get to see Cap wielding a freaking hammer, which is pretty rad. So that was cool.
Yeah, again, that kind of harkens back to that whole fan service moments. There's a lot of cool stuff like that. Personally, that's a good question. What are some fan service moments that you enjoyed?
That was the spine tingling moment. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
When he freaking kicks the ass of Thanos with the little ham. That was pretty rad. I dug that.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest one for me, honestly. Well, that whole, fight at the end was cool, too. But that was the part that was like, alright, this is going to be rad. Because at that point, I was like, man, there's a lot of build-up. This fight better pay off. And that's when I was like, yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
So that was a good one.
Yeah.
I also like how when he grabs that, or when he gets the hammer, they cut to Thor, and he's like, I knew it! Because of that little shot, and when he's trying to pick it up, and it moves, and he's like, oh shit, in Avengers 2. So I guess that's another little fan servicey thing. That was cool.
Yeah, lots of stuff, lots of callbacks within the universe, and then to the comics. Just a hodgepodge of stuff that'll make you smirk, that'll make you warm inside. Tons of it, man. Of course, I'm always happy to see characters that I think, as comic fans, we know inherently are bigger than their on-screen counterparts. I always like to see when they touch upon that. They did it with Infinity War. They did it here again, and that was a confrontation between Scarlet Witch and Thanos. Cool, man. I like when they touch upon shit like that. That lets you know we haven't forgotten that this what this character potentially is, or stuff like that. You know, I love that. I love that. You know, again, one of my favorite characters. You know, underused by the, you know, just by nature of the fact that they were focusing on other characters in these movies. But you know, it's just cool just to be reminded they care, they remember. You know, they're gonna chime in on it, little things like that. The death of Black Widow, the her and Clint struggling to be the sacrifice. That sequence was fucking awesome. You know, there's lots of fucking points in this movie where there was just stuff that made me go, "This is great. This is great" in a completely different way than Infinity War. Which again, I gotta say, they could have taken the easy route and just done that. I think this was more ballsy to do this than just repeat that, which would have been, I'm sure, satisfying. But
especially because I think the more paced moments in Infinity War didn't land as well. You know, like the places where with Cap and Black Widow, where we're just kind of like, well, that was kind of pointless, wasn't it?
yeah,
It kind of, I don't want to say it made those parts cool, but it made it okay for those parts to exist.
yeah, it's one of those where, in retrospect, it not fixes, but you know, kind of illuminates certain portions of a previous product that's, you know, may have not been as entirely fulfilling, but now make more sense. Which makes absolute sense given that these movies were shot back to back, intended to be a single product. So it makes sense in that respect. But sometimes you just gotta wait and see where it's at. Which I find that it's like a thing that universe building movies attempt early on. And I think besides the Marvel Universe, nobody has really knocked that out of the ballpark yet. So Marvel Universe makes use of that here, and it works. It works because they have the attention of the crowd now.
Yeah.
So it'd be foolish for them to ignore certain things or, you know, overlook certain things as they do sometimes with other universes, deservedly or not.
Yeah. I think focusing on the newer characters in the first movie and then taking it back to the old school was a cool move too, especially because it, you know, gave that extra meaning, I guess.
Agreed, chum. So, was there any negatives in this? I have to point out that yes, I still don't like the Hulk. This, don't get me wrong. There's moments in the MCU where I like the Hulk. It's just as of recent, he's been anus on sticks. But thankfully he was not a piece of shit in this one, so that's cool. Also, why did Bruce Banner sound like a total tard?
Yeah, the first time he shows up. What is this? He's supposed to be like one of the smartest people of all time, and he's like,
what's that voice, man? I don't get it. Anyway, that's weird. Again, love the rough, but what the fuck's going on, Ruffalo?
Yeah, I gotta say, I was expecting to hate the Hulk. Ultimately, I didn't hate the Hulk, except for that early scene, like we mentioned earlier, where he was just like, "Look at these hijinks!" Ding 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 ding. Mungo Jerry gets a freaking shout out, so that's pretty rad. So yeah, I don't know if I can give the Hulk a negative, but he's kind of like a.
I give it a I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's better than I thought he would be.
I really like the score in this until they started using the Avengers theme like every fucking second.
Yeah.
And granted, it came at a moment where it made sense, but I was like, all right, dude, can you come up with another theme? It's not a good theme, guys.
It's a bad theme.
It's just not a good theme.
I think this is probably the best it sounded, but that's not saying much.
Yeah, it's... I'm sorry, I just hate that theme.
Yeah.
It never sounds good to me. It's... Given how understated or I'm saying understated, but really I mean kind of lame. Some of the other soundtracks have been. It sticks out like a sore thumb because it's so loud, and all of a sudden they're dun, 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 dun.
I think it's like it's like the only one that's recognizable, so they stick to it like a freaking, I don't know, VD or something. But it's much like VD. It's not great.
And I get it. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, you know, like fucking Lord of the Rings, greatest example possibly of themes being reused inappropriate ways that make you just warm up or get excited or whatever, depending on the character. Here, it's like, it's the only thing you have. Stop using it.
At least they didn't bring back the harpsichords.
I would have killed for some harpsichords. But other
too.
than that overuse of that theme, I actually really like the score in this because it literally was understated. And given some of the solemn approach at the beginning, it made sense. But then again, that Avengers theme kicks in. And you're like, whoop, stinky. I hate it, man.
Yeah, it's not good.
But let me see. I think that's the only two big negatives that I have for
this does feel like a big goodbye to the original Avengers.
Yeah.
Which right now is cool. Hopefully they don't screw it up because Marvel sometimes. So that's kind of like a to be seen, point. But it's cool that at least they got like a good send off, and I'm sure not all of these characters are going to be gone anyway. So that's cool. Now.
We know Black Widow is getting a movie, so I don't know. I mean, obviously it's going to be set in the past, right? It's gotta.
Hope so.
But I don't know. Does that mean they'll find a way to bring her back?
Hope not.
Who knows? Although, of course, now we know that they're going to be acknowledging the multiverses.
Yeah.
So there is a possibility of that. Who knows? The point is, yes, in the end, you're right. If you wanted to finish watching Marvel movies, this would
before
probably
they got stunky.
Yeah, this is good, man. At least we got a satisfying arc that ends. You know what I'm saying? Which apparently is hard to do. So they did it. Satisfying arc from point A to Z here, and we haven't seen Far From Home, or what is it? Far From Home, right?
Yeah.
With Spider-Man, which apparently serves more as an addendum to that that you can add as an extra little stinger ending there. So there's something that there you could see as a whole, as a package, and it's satisfying. And if anything stinks after this, well, fuck it, who cares? You got this big chunk of coolness.
Yeah.
So yeah, very satisfying in the end. You gotta say, here's your final thoughts and a score on this flick. Again, score on a scale of 1 to 10, and relative to its peers. Give it to me.
I liked it more than I thought I would. Didn't hate the Hulk, so that's cool. Gave me the spine tingles, which Infinity War did not.
Hating on Infinity War for?
No, I just gotta pimp it out. I got the tingles. I didn't get the tingles.
The tingles. You got.
I
get your pants. That's what I'm getting at.
Good one.
Anyway.
Anyway, this is a movie that you should get on Blu-ray because it looks great. And we saw it on a download, so it's gonna be interesting. Well, now I'm sure it'll look the same. Anyway, it looks great. Is what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, man, it was satisfying. I didn't expect it to be that satisfying. Also, my tentacles in my eye, so I'm just gonna wrap up. I'll give it a 9. I liked it. Of course, this is not on the Paddington scale. This is on the MCU scale, I guess.
Yeah, this is about as satisfying as a conclusion as you can get to this long gestating arc, and especially for certain characters. I mean, you really can't go wrong. They did justice to. I'm not gonna say, except for the Hulk. I'm gonna put it this way: except for the Hulk, everybody pretty much got justice done to their character, and the Hulk was there. But anyway, which is an uncanny feat to achieve. So yeah, very much a satisfying conclusion, potential beginning, beginning to new things thrown in there for a good mix if you want to continue down the road. Jerked a little tear from my eye every now and then, so that's cool. Yeah, plenty of exciting moments, but mostly again, the best thing about this movie is the dedication to character work, which again, man, that's what you should do. And we already know that Marvel has a good record with that. But here they just, turned it up to 11 in terms of character work. If you had any doubt, which I know some people, there's a stupid fucking rivalry between this fan and that fan, saying that, they can't do character work. Well, now, if you ever had that doubt, there it is. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely fantastic. So I want to give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's great, totally worth the wait, totally worth not sitting in a packed theater full of tuna-smelling kids. I don't know why they smell like tuna, but
they're not me. I had a pretty big headache throughout this movie, and it didn't ruin it, which is a feat. So there you go. It might even go up once I see it again without a headache.
Hashtag headache out.
Dude, I've had like really bad allergies this whole week. It's been bad. So I'll take a headache or not being able to breathe literally yesterday. So that's a thing.
Anyway.
10 out of 10 headache.
Tell us what you thought about Endgame. Let us know in the comments down below. Did you hate? Did you love? We want to know. And let us know why. In the meantime, hit like, share, subscribe, and those notification buttons because we're out.